For decades, Starbucks wasn't just a coffee shop. It was a cultural icon, right? It was your morning ritual, a status symbol, all wrapped up in that famous green and white cup. But today, the story is very different. Starbucks is in real trouble. So, we're going to dive into the pretty dramatic story of how the world's coffee king built this massive empire and why that empire is now showing some serious cracks.
Okay, let's just get right to the number that has everyone in the Starbucks C-suite sweating. -6%. That's the latest drop in sales at stores open for at least a year. And to put that in perspective, it's the steepest decline they've seen since the 2008 financial crisis. This isn't just a little slowdown. This is things going in reverse.
So, this leads us to the big question we're tackling here. How on earth did this happen? How did a brand that seemed totally invincible, a brand that literally taught America how to drink espresso, suddenly find itself struggling to get people to walk through the door? To really get what's going on now, you have to go back, way back to the very beginning. Because believe it or not, the seeds of today's crisis were actually planted a long, long time ago. So let's kick off with Chapter 1, from a tiny little bean shop to a global billion-dollar empire. Picture this, the original Starbucks, back in 1971. You probably wouldn't even recognize it. It wasn't a cafe at all. It was this small, kinda nerdy store for coffee purists, run by a writer and two teachers who were just obsessed with great coffee beans. And here's the wild part. You couldn't actually buy a cup of coffee there. No, really. They only sold beans and equipment. And for about a decade, that's pretty much what Starbucks was, a tiny, local brand for coffee lovers. Then, a guy named Howard Schultz walked in the door, and he had this vision that was going to change absolutely everything. This is where the revolution really starts. See, Schultz had a totally different vision. He'd been to Milan and seen these incredible, vibrant espresso bars that were the center of community life. He pitched this idea to the founders. Let's sell an experience, not just beans. Let's create a real cafe culture. And they said no. They totally rejected it, worried it would make their brand less pure. This was Schultz's big idea, his core concept, the third place. Think about it. You have home, that's the first place. You have work, the second place. He wanted to create a third place, a comfortable, welcoming spot where people could just connect. And at a time when people felt more and more disconnected, this idea was, well, it was revolutionary. It wasn't just about coffee. It was about community. Schultz believed in this idea so much that he left, started his own coffee bars, and then came back in 1987, raised $3.8 million, and bought the whole company. He immediately turned the stores into the cafes he'd always imagined. But his real stroke of genius might have been how he treated his employees. He called them partners, and he gave them benefits like health insurance and stock options, even the part-time staff. That was just unheard of at the time. And Schultz's playbook worked like magic. It ignited this period of absolutely explosive growth. Starbucks went from being a coffee company to a cultural phenomenon, and they were selling something much more powerful than just a beverage. The speed of this thing was just staggering. After going public in '92, they started opening a new store pretty much every single business day. By 2008, they were a $10 billion giant with thousands of stores all over the world. It was a rocket ship. So how did they convince people to pay $4 for a cup of coffee when you could get it at a diner for 50 cents? It's simple. They sold status. Carrying that white cup around wasn't just about getting a caffeine fix. It was a signal. It told the world you had good taste, you had a little extra money, you were part of the in crowd. Just think about it. Before Starbucks, who was ordering a venti skinny latte? Nobody. They introduced a whole new vocabulary into American life. This wasn't just clever marketing. It was a sign of complete and total cultural dominance. The brand got so big, people started using it as a verb, like, let's Starbucks. But here's the thing. When you grow that fast, when every decision is about getting bigger and faster, you can start to lose the very things that made you special in the first place. This is the turning point, really, the moment where that obsession with growth started to poison the brand from the inside. And don't just take my word for it. In a famous leaked memo from 2007, Howard Schultz himself warns that the company was losing its soul. The beautiful espresso machines were hidden away, replaced by automated ones for speed. The cozy, unique neighborhood shops were becoming cookie-cutter corporate templates. And the quality? It started to slip, with more and more people complaining about burnt or weak coffee. That memo from Schultz was like a prophecy.
The company was already vulnerable on the inside when an external shock hit, the 2008 recession. All of a sudden, that $4 status symbol felt like an unaffordable luxury, and the growth machine just ground to a halt. They closed 600 stores in 1 year, which was a massive shock to the system. Now, that moment should have been a huge wake-up call, but the problems didn't really go away. In fact, you could argue they got worse. Today, the empire is facing threats from all sides, and it's revealing some really deep cracks in the foundation. First up, price. It's a huge issue. A Starbucks latte can now cost you over $6. That's up almost 40% in just 5 years. At the same time, you can go to McDonald's and get a pretty decent latte for almost half that price. For a lot of people, that gap is just too big to ignore. And what are you getting for that premium price? Well, a lot of the time, it's a shocking amount of sugar. A Grande Caramel Frappuccino has 54 grams of sugar. To put that in perspective, a can of Coke has 39. So without us really noticing, Starbucks has kind of shifted from being a coffee company to a dessert company that just happens to sell caffeine. And this right here is the modern battlefield. As Starbucks became more expensive, more sugary, and honestly more inconsistent, the competition got a whole lot smarter. You've got McDonald's and Dunkin' attacking on price, you've got places like Dutch Bros attacking on service with a super friendly vibe, and you've even got high-quality home brewing and good gas station coffee chipping away at their convenience. So it's all come together to create this perfect storm. You have instability at the top with 3 different CEOs in just 2 years. The mobile order system is overwhelming the baristas, leading to long wait times. You've got a growing union movement in hundreds of stores. And of course, the stock has been performing terribly. It's a mess. Look, with over 38,000 stores around the globe, Starbucks is far from dead. Let's be clear about that. But the empire is definitely bruised and it's bleeding customers. So the real question, the one that matters most, is this. Can the company that taught a whole generation how to drink coffee find its soul again? Or has the magic finally gone for good?